what's more scary to me than AI is them believing everything they see come across their tablets or their phones. I call it the lazy approach. They're not taking the time to formulate their own decision for truths. I think that's more scary than where we're going with AI. Listeners, I am here with Franck, a professional sales implementation trainer coming from Paris. How are you today, Franck?
Well, good. Thank you very much. Nice to talk to you today, Robert.
Yes. Let's jump right into it. Consultative selling has become a go-to for helping B2B teams. In your experience, how do some of the methodologies actually simplify the sales process? And what's the one mistake you see salespeople make most often?
Two good questions I get to start our conversation today. Let me say that I've been operating in this market for the last 11 years now, and my background is pretty much around IT, working in an organization like Oracle and startups and different software company. So my answer would be actually rooted mainly on the IT environment and the customer I work with on a weekly basis. So you're asking me about what can actually simplify the sales process when it comes to consultative selling. I think one thing I'd like to share early on today is the fact that everybody knows consultative selling. I mean, it's definitely old news. Huh? It's been around for 50 years now? Yeah. I think the tricky thing is that everybody knows about consultative selling, but when it comes to actually applying it in real life conversation with a customer, I think Forrester came up with a study recently in 2023 saying that less than 10% of salespeople are actually applying sales consultative techniques in their real conversation with customers. That's actually a kind of a weird context of everybody knowing what they should do, but for some reason not doing it.
Yeah, I never would have guessed it would be that low.
Absolutely. So it's a struggle. That's the way it is. And I think there's a number of reasons behind this. You're asking me about simplification. I think you're right. I think simplification is of the essence. I think when you think of the life of any salesperson in this market, these guys are under very high pressure environment, stress with numbers, with management, with their quarterly calls. The last thing they need is something complex. The last thing they need is another layer of complexity to actually do what they have to do in the best way. So if you don't come up with something simple, something that sticks, as we say, there's a high chance that the workshop will turn into 2 great days interaction, and then they'll be back to what they were doing before. If you take a methodology like Value Selling Associates, for example, the way we make it stick is really focusing on a 6-step methodology. So driving a structured conversation with any new stakeholder is going to basically rely on these 6 steps. Don't get me wrong, it will obviously take time for them to dive into them and really understand the steps, and probably months of practice to become proficient at it. But you see a lot of toolbox in the market. You see a lot of complex blueprints. And I think the main reason why they don't stick is complexity. So to answer your question shortly, keep it simple, 5-6 steps max, and key principle to put into action. And I think that's probably the recipe of the success of Value Selling Associates over the years. Then you're asking me about the mistakes that I see a lot when I train salespeople. I think the question on mistakes they make when explaining the value. And I think the problem is exactly that. I think the problem is they try to explain the value. We don't think that explaining the value is the way to go. You don't explain the value. You should be collaborative in your approach with your customer. When you're selling solutions that have some critical impact for the buyer, the value is unique for every single customer. So it takes you to co-build the value with the customer. Don't go there and turn and pitch, because customers have seen enough salespeople knowing even better than them what they should do or how they should process. So this is really the conversational and interactive process, I think, that is lacking a lot. And every time we kick off a new workshop, we have actually great conversation with these salespeople and asking them spontaneously, how would you approach this meeting? How would you do it usually? And you'd be surprised with the number of salespeople who are still pitching, still introducing themselves. They love their technology so much that they can't stop talking about it. So we say stop the push approach, get more on the pull approach. That's actually much more efficient. So the one thing I would say we see the most on the field out there is salespeople pushing and pushing again.
Yeah. So when you do have a client or customer that adopts the consultative selling approach, what's the biggest shift you see in the sales team?
The biggest shift. Well, first, the main reason why our customers are trusting us with their sales team is to make numbers, to reach some hard KPIs. So whether the focus is on transformation deal rate ratio, whether it's on increasing the value of each transaction, that's very hard KPI business we are in. But you're right.
Mhm.
Beyond the KPIs, some cultural shift that you can expect. One of them is probably around alignment. I think companies are recruiting very talented people. When they recruit a new sales guy, they are usually looking for some personality, looking for people who are great at talking, great at
Mhm.
convincing, with some special talent. The problem is if you only recruit based on talent, you end up with a team of unique talents that are unmanageable because every single person is doing it with their own recipe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a top-down success model or lack of success, right? If your goals and your KPIs are not defined well at the top, how do you expect the people, the masses at the bottom to be effective, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's about try to rely a little bit less on talent because guess what? Talented people, like anybody else, they have good days and bad days. They have good months and bad months. So if you
Mhm.
want your number to be predictable, you want more than talent. You want a good mixture of talent and structured approach. If you expect your teams, whether you're talking pre-sales, sales, professional services, marketing teams to be aligned, even your indirect sales network, you need coherence and you need some kind of some level of rigor. So one thing you can definitely expect when you actually deploy a sales methodology is alignment. The best way to generate a cultural shift is to stop considering a sales training as a one-off event. It's everything but a one-off event. You start seeing an impact in a cultural shift when the sales methodology is actually impacting your sales DNA. So what I mean by that is that sales methodology should be reflected in your information system. It should be reflected in your CRM. It should be reflected in the processes. I think the company who got the most spectacular return on investment when it comes to sales methodology is to go beyond the simple training and actually aligning everything to do with sales operations, sales enablement, and execution around the same philosophy of selling. That will be
Hmm.
my man. The recipe for success for me is around this.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I love this next question. I'm going to give you latitude because everyone treats it differently, and it's it's come on every company like a ton of bricks. At least I don't know of anyone that's at least not thinking about it. It's a different story on whether people implement it or not and how they implement it. Where AI truly fits into your business
Ah.
and and the sales approach. So you can take this wherever you want to go because every company's different. And I'll preface it with this. It's here to stay.
Okay.
And the companies that embrace it and try to understand it and use it as a tool to help them become better, more efficient at their job are the companies that I feel are going to succeed. The companies that either don't adopt it or adopt it and think it's going to fix whatever problem they have onto itself, unfortunately, probably won't survive. So that's my 2 cents. That's where I think it is. I think AI is a tool that helps the person become better, more efficient, smarter, and be able to do more things at once.
I like the way you phrase that because that's very true. I think AI, there's a lot of posture regarding AI in the sales world as we speak, from pure skepticism of people who consider that as another gadget, of something that is superficial, something that will be more dangerous and bringing more insecurity than proper value. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have people who have complete faith in technology and who will be ready to actually give their pipeline to an AI and basically delegate everything to do with their business to these capabilities. And I think everything we see around the agentic AI is actually probably attached to that fantasy of delegating completely. I think you said it very well. I think it's a very exciting time, let's face it. This kind of a technology disruption happens every 10, 20 years. So I think we are in the middle of this. And I guess you were like me around when the internet kicked in, and we were all wondering, where is this going? The early adopters were already buying their stuff online, and we were looking at them like, are you crazy to actually leave
And
your
even,
credit card detail?
yeah, and even before that, the Industrial Revolution, right? Everyone's going, "What's going to happen?" Right?
Absolutely.
You can look back in history and see all these technological innovations. And I think, AI, at least now, I think is scary for a lot of people because all they hear on TV is how people are losing their jobs. But as you look at history, this is going to create a completely different landscape. It's going to create more opportunities. It might not be clear as we sit here today, but if you look at history, each one of the major technological revolutions this country's experienced, we've come out better on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. So the question is, how long is it going to take for AI to deliver the best it has to offer? And how long is it going to take to avoid doing mistakes? And I think the more proactive we are, the more we shorten this learning cycle, I guess.
Right.
Back to your question, I think globally we see skepticism going down, I would say. From where I stand, you might have a different view based on the people you interview. I think even the laggard people are gradually considering that, yes, there might be some value behind it. So I'd say we are moving into a mindset where AI is considered as a lever of value. So if we break it down a little bit, where can AI help salespeople? I'd say starting with preparation is definitely here where I think we have a consensus when it comes to looking for relevant information prior to a business conversation, whether when it's about identifying meaningful insight you can leverage into that conversation, turning the insight into some kind of narrative. I think everything I'm saying now, I meet sales leaders are pretty much convinced it can save time. We're not saying AI cannot becoming delusive and coming up with things that doesn't completely make sense. But I think we all agree that the quality seems to be improving and we can shorten the preparation time. And as we know, time is the most valuable resource of any sales professional. So that's actually good news.
Yeah.
I
And
think, yes,
and for a company too, time is money, right? So
absolutely.
if you can do it faster and more efficient, that just betters your margins. So it's good for all.
Definitely. So there's only good news there. So preparation is definitely one of the benefits of AI. After that, the ability of AI to impact the outcome. I think here there is a missing link, and I don't think AI in the short or medium term will be able to build that bridge, that gap. Is the way it's going to be delivered during the meeting. You will still need people with a good body language. You will still need people with passion. You will still need people with good active listening skills, just to name some fundamental of what we do. And this AI, as we speak, cannot help. I know some
Yeah.
people are working hard on AI glasses, but
Mhm.
I'm not sure the time is near where we turn up with clever glasses and smart glasses who will be able to speak in our ears and say what we have to insert an objection, for example.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to take a long time. And I think it's human nature. At the end of the day, we love the human contact, the human interaction, right? I think everyone does. It lends a credibility, gives a trust or lack of trust. It's nice to know that when you're actually ready to pull the trigger on a product or sell something, you want to know that there's a human behind that, right? And you want to know there's a
Yeah,
human making those decisions. And
definitely.
to just close the loop on that comment you made, I think we're a long ways away from it. There's a lot of banter and conversations out there. Elon Musk said not too long ago that he sees this many, many, many years down the road, but at some point he feels that, it's going to get to a point that there's going to be universal income where the government will be paying everyone to exist. Do I buy into that? Maybe sometime, but it's not going to be in my lifetime. And I
Mm,
don't think it's in the younger generation's lifetime. Because I truly believe that it's human nature to want that collaborative interaction, right? I think
definitely.
you might have a different view on this. You see the younger generation today constantly with the phones or the tablets in their face. And the scary part, what's more scary to me than AI, is them believing everything they see come across their tablets or their phones. I call it the lazy approach. They're not taking the time to formulate their own decision and, come up with what they personally think as opposed to just taking what they hear for truths. I think that's more scary than where we're going with AI.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is very true. I think the main fear of some people is that AI is going to dumb us down rather than making us more clever.
Well,
And
definitely makes
I
it
think
life
that's,
easier in some instances, right?
yeah, absolutely. So I think the challenge of bringing AI into the sales world, and more specifically in the sales enablement world, is not replacing yesterday's skills by AI. It's just enhancing the fundamental skills with AI. You still want people who will be able to deal with unforeseen objections. You still want people who can demonstrate, as I said before, passion for what they do, to be able to bounce on some things that has been shared during a conversation. So, yeah, surrounded with challenge. I think there's one use case that is probably under considered in the selling world when it comes to AI, is a coaching element. I think it's a common struggle for most sales leaders. These guys are up to their eyes, very limited time to dedicate to coaching their team. Sometimes they think they coach their teams. They don't really coach their teams. They're more telling them what to do and giving more instructions. Coaching takes time. And what we've seen recently with AI is the ability to actually deploy AI platform and AI coaching platform. So back to Value Selling Associates, you can create an avatar, different avatars actually, of a typical client you interact with on the field, or people interact with. You define the industry, you define the size of the company, you define the job description, and then you can upload some podcast, some content, and the whole platform will create a persona that is, I have to say, quite realistic. And I've seen sales leaders changing their mind in 15 minutes just by interacting with these avatars. It's like a scenario, for example, of managing to get the first meeting. So you give a call to the avatar, and the objective is for them to agree to give you an hour of their time next week. And even if sales leader were a bit skeptical, it took just one call for them to realize they got nervous, they got sweaty, and they were doing this in front of their peers. So there was kind of obviously a little competition game going on. And the feedback was very, very positive. And they were far from thinking that it could be that impactful. So back to your question of leveraging AI, I think one of the reasons why sales initiatives when it comes to training and methodology doesn't deliver on value is because frontline managers, they simply don't have time to bring that methodology to life through their everyday coaching with their team. AI can definitely take this workload off their shoulder and giving each salesperson access to an environment crafted for their specific, not only solution and organization, but the industries they address in their go-to-market. So that's something I think that should be considered, and that's something I can see being used increasingly in the next few years.
It's exciting times for sure. And to go back to the consultative model, I can imagine when you come into a company, you're training, aligning the whole organization around a single methodology. It's probably tough, right? Because they're probably scattered and there's not one message. What's the biggest hurdle that you find? I should say, I got to believe your biggest hurdle is probably getting the top, like the executives, to buy into a certain approach, right? And it's usually probably comes from, doing a deep dive and understanding the metrics. And is the executive buy-in your biggest hurdle?
Executive buy-in for me is the biggest challenge, especially when we're here to make a difference. You see, you have a lot of training company. They're happy to deliver training, and as long as the participants are happy, they consider they've done their job. We like to raise the bar and to see ourselves as a strategic partner to their business. So our ambition is to impact key strategic KPIs like, obviously, turnover, obviously not only revenue, but reducing the discount, increasing the average amount of transaction, quickening the sales cycle, etc. You name it. You know them as much as me, Robert. So
Yeah.
our ambition is to impact these KPIs. The experience shows that if you don't have executive buy-in, you're not getting anywhere. We're talking salespeople here. We're talking people, for most of them, who consider that rules don't really apply to them. A lot of them consider themselves as special.
Right.
So if they don't feel there's a strong involvement of the exec of their organization, they will find a way to skip the application of the training. It's a bit like the air hostess syndrome. When the airplane starts to shake, if passenger wants to know if they should be worried, they're looking at the air hostess. So if the air hostess is nervous, they get nervous. In the selling world, if the sales exec doesn't care much, why should you bother? So for me, the main concern, obviously, as you said, Robert, is to get the buy-in of the exec early on before starting, but to make sure this involvement is high at every step. Because if they're not strongly driving the change and leading by example, the investment will die over 3, 4, or 6 months. So we need just to give you a very simple example. At every single workshop, you should have a sales exec opening the session, reminding participants, why are you here today? Why it's important, not only for you as individual, but for the organization. And we need to repeat and reinforce these messages at every step of the transformation journey. Otherwise, as I said, it's going to slow down and eventually die. It won't deliver on the promises.
People that executives and whether it's startups or large companies that will watch this, there's this part of business in any organization that you have to be able to pivot, right? Companies that are agile and can pivot are the successful businesses for the most part. It's not guaranteed, but for the most part, companies that are nimble and able to pivot see success. So how does that single methodology buy-in relate to being able to pivot, right? There's your methodology, is not going to hold true forever, right? Things change, markets change. I'm sure there's metrics that you follow, and that's kind of what I want you to elaborate on is how do you know when to pivot? How do you know when that methodology has changed or is starting to break down?
So usually we obviously keep in touch with our customer on the long run because we don't consider ourselves as a one-off event company. We're here to accompany the change. So regularly we organize call. We have a strong program on that goes 14 weeks after the initial training. So week after week, we are delivering additional content. We're doing some calls with the team, usually online calls with a limited number of participants where we are accompany them on using the tools and listening to where they are on each deal. So we do deal coaching basically with them. So the moment where they start to pivot is when we are connecting with the leaders and we're listening to their feedback. For me, the ultimate KPI of success is when salespeople are starting to apply the methodology without being forced to do it. So when they spontaneously apply it, feel the tool, just because this sees the value. It's a bit like deploying a CRM solution. If a CRM is considered as a reporting tool for the N+1 and N+2, very quickly the salespeople will disengage. But if the CRM is delivering value, guess what? They will enter the data and they will get some analytics. They will be able to pick around corners to understand what's next. They will collect the value. Same with sales methodology. If they see the value, they don't need nobody to be on their back to applying it. So there is one tool that we call in Value Selling Associates, which is a value prompter. A value prompter is something you feel when you're working on a complex deal, and it allows you to clarify very well where you are currently in the deal, focusing on each separate stakeholder in the customer organization. So when you see salespeople filling their own value prompter without being asked, this is a pivot moment. Autonomy, basically. Yeah. Not being chased after to do so. Okay. Right. So initially, I'm not going to lie to you. You need to be behind these guys to make sure they do what they are supposed to do. Right. And back to the exec buy-in. This is where you actually initiate the big machine. But once these are started, you stop pushing and the rock still rolling, and moving in the right direction because they bought it, they got it, they understand what's in it for them, and they don't need anybody else to tell them. Actually, when you ask every sales leader, you ask them, what was the most compelling training methodology you had during your whole career? Usually, each of them can mention one. And usually, some of them, sometimes, they even have the book with them. I saw sales leaders showing to me the book. It's still in their drawer. It's still there, And this book has followed them during their whole career. For the last 20 years, they love the methodology. It worked for them. It's effortless. Every now and then, they need to review it a little bit to refresh their memory. So we each have our own favorite tool. And we, on an individual point of view, we know that we have acquired a methodology when it's in the background, when it's inside our everyday practice. This is where the pivot moment happened.
Yeah, that's great. Sales processes, take on a life of their own, right? Some have a long timeline, some have a shorter timeline, right? To get there. Is there a certain skill or habit that you teach these salespeople to navigate these situations, right? I'm sure depending on what you're selling could have 3, 4, 5, 6 month life cycle before the sale is actually made. Other products that bring to market have a much faster close rate. Is there a specific skill or habit that you'd like to see a salesperson have to be able to navigate that?
I think navigating has become a very crucial skill into this world because companies are involving more and more stakeholders in their key decisions. Right. So in the past, you may have 3 or 4 decision maker, not decision maker necessarily, but could be influencer, could be as we speak, I didn't check the very last statistics, but last time I checked was between 8 and 9 stakeholders involved in any major decision for an organization. So yes, navigating is a key competency to have. What I like them to consider is accessing the highest level of power as early as possible. A lot of salespeople are very proud of their agenda because it's packed with meetings. Right. And they are proudly showing their agenda to their manager. Look, this week alone, I'm going to meet 6 different people. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong in spending time at your customer site and spending time with them. But sometimes they get mixed up between the clock and the compass. The clock is getting busy, meeting lots of people. Compass is who is the next people I should meet to make my sales progress, to help my customer advancing in their buying journey. And usually the answer is going up, basically the organization chart. But for some reason, we like to stay in the comfort zone of people who like to talk with us and having time. So one of the key competency, and to be honest, is maybe not as much as a competencies and a courage. The courage to go and talk to people who are not waiting for our phone call. Right. And some of them, they don't even want to talk to us because as soon as you're going to mention what you do, they'll be looking at you like, I'm not sure you understand what my job is. I'm a financial guy. I'm a business guy. You're selling technology, so please go and talk to my technology people. So these guys are not expecting us to reach out to them. But if we approach them with the right content and if we really connect to their top priorities, there's no reason why they wouldn't meet us and they will not ask for more interaction in the future. As soon as you reach power, you can answer a very basic question. Is it urgent? Are they ready to act on it? Are they ready to spend the budget and resources on it? You can say much quicker, is it worth investing or not? So when do you want to meet that person? In 6 months, after 6 months work of presentation, demonstration, customer reference, blah, 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 to meet eventually the decision maker, to hear him say, thank you very much, good job with my team, but to be honest, it's not a priority. So basically, when do you want the bad news? As you say in the US. So if you want the bad news early, go and knock at that door. The key message is that.
Yeah. It's so true in a lot of things, right? I think people that are willing to put themselves in that uncomfortable position really tends to pay off.
Definitely.
Yeah. So to close up, where do you see the future of sales training? AI growth that's exploding on us. As someone who works closely with executives and sales teams, where do you see it evolving to? in the next couple of years.
As you just said, we cannot talk about the future of sales enablement and sales training industry without mentioning AI. You're right. AI is here to stay. I think it's here to stay prior, during, and after the sales conversation. As we said as well, I think the human element is here to stay as well. I don't see in the near future AI replacing us. Definitely not. I think people buy from people, and trust is of the essence. And as far as I know, AI can fake human and fake trust, but it cannot develop proper trust. And AI will make you sound clever until you enter that exact call. Once you are face to face, you're on your own. Correct. So we still need the sales training. I'm very optimistic with the fact that it's still going to be a human-driven activity on the trainer point of view. I think people, to be comfortable learning, they need as well to have a trusting relationship with the trainer, and AI cannot develop that.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the sales training world is heading to. We will always need great sales trainer to deliver impactful human experience in the classroom. Tailored coaching, tailored feedback. To deliver a feedback, you need to understand the psychology of the person you're facing. And even if we only met them 2 or 3 hours ago, I think these people, for example, 2 salespeople are delivering the same performance. I'm not going to give the same feedback to these 2 different individuals. Right. Because I will take into account their personality, how I perceive their personality. I don't think AI can, as we speak, scan this kind of information to be able to tailor the approach. You agree with that?
I do, 100%. You have to be able to, it's such a powerful tool to be able to read someone's reaction or their posture.
Yes. You know, there's only one scenario where I think AI can disappear from the picture. If the day there will be no more salespeople. The day salespeople will be replaced by AI, obviously that will be another game. So maybe in 20, 30 years from now, AI will sell to AI. And
right. No, yeah. You know what I mean? It's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched at all. It's probably going to become easier, right?
You're going to have an AI in the selling organization meeting another AI on the buying organization. And these 2 AIs going to negotiate together. Back to the agentic AI that is the buzzword as we speak. Right. I think that will be the end of sales enablement, when there'll be AI talking to AI. As long as there's some human element to it, I think we are still needed.
Yes. Companies listening, executives that are in the market for consultative training, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to get hold of me is to reach out to me directly, basically. I guess you might want to leave my details at the end of this podcast. Reach out to me by email. Let's have a conversation. To apply my own recipe, I want to start by a conversation and understand where you stand, where you are, what you expect, what's your thought process. We might not work together. It's fine. I enjoy having discussion with sales leaders because it elevates me. I'm learning every day through my prospects. If we can find some common ground to work together, great. If we don't, I guess it's always good to know each other and to know we can count on each other in our network to carry on the conversation further. So happy to have that discussion.
Awesome. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed it.